Thank you and good evening. I'm Courtenay Heading with the Isle of Man government. I'll give you a brief run through on TTZero and the founder of TTXGP, which became TTZero. It's obviously Ise Hussein. Didn't know I was following him, but I'm glad that I am. It was actually quite a risky political thing, not just a technology area, but if you go back 105 odd years, the TT started on the Isle of Man. I'm a petrol-head. I love two-wheeled motorcycling. The bikes go around the Isle of Man at up to 200 miles an hour. So to get a minister that says 4 years ago we'll embrace a guy who comes over with a vision for electric bikes is quite brave politically. The technology just wasn't there in some ways. It's taken leaps forward in the last 4 years. We'll cover that at the end. But it's really quite disruptive to have something like this in the Isle of Man. It's quite testimony to politicians, I hate to say that. So what's the Isle of Man? If you look at it, a map of the UK, it's actually the geographical centre of the British Isles. It's not actually part of the UK. It's not part of Europe. It has its own independent government, 1,000 years of Timor government. But what that does enable is almost a community that is flexible, accessible, makes its own laws, so they can adopt things like fuel cells, ITM Power, you heard of earlier. They're trialling technology on the Isle of Man. Has the world's first 3G mobile. But at times I do have problems getting a signal and talking to friends. But they are quite advanced in trying to embrace technology. And the TTZero, the stat for me is not the 100 mile an hour lap, the first 100 mile an hour lap on an electric bike, but it's the 152 miles an hour that Michael Rutter went down the Solby Strait on. That is quite awesome on an electric bike, on any bike. Motor technology, that's moved on a lot, but that's only part of the story. It's controllers, it's battery packs, it's ecosystem. It's people suddenly realising, I'm not just needing to be an evangelist, I can be an entrepreneur in this area. So the range of suppliers has grown dramatically. The costs are still not where we want them, to be honest, but they are getting there and the ecosystem's going up. A lot of those companies that have come to the island have stayed there, they've put IP into companies there, some of them raise funds there, so it does embrace some disruptive technology. Two-wheel progress, it's now getting sustainable. Everyone has said earlier, it's not electric bike journey or electric car journey, it is part of a transport journey or a charging journey, and I think that's the important part. I'm not locked in any technology. I think that these steps are part of our accelerated progress. Moog and Honda, along with Motorsys, those are the two star companies, but when Honda turn up, you know things have changed. Battery density, we can't get enough density in them, but they are getting better. The packs are getting more reliable. The motors are still not cheap. Some of the bike costs for motors are £15,000 to £40,000, I've heard, but they are technologies that are used in F1, as we've heard earlier. In 4 to 5 years' time, if you look at the stat of the last 40 years of the petrol bike speeds on the island, they've gone up reasonably. The electric bikes from a low base have come on dramatically. That's the bit, and sometime out there they're going to get more than close, I'm sure. Sustainable transport, electric bike on the left, again, a fantastic piece of technology when you see that. On the right, a couple of our ministers and ITM Power, and I declare my interest in the car in the bottom. It's a concept car from Jaguar Land Rover. It features twin turbines from Bladon jets. 8 years ago, I was a founder director of Bladon jets, but that's not the interesting bit. It's the fact that Tata have invested in the company and are now looking at micropower, distributed power into India, and recently 600 million Indians didn't have power. So this whole world is born on two wheels, goes into four, goes into smart packs, and around the world this stuff is now beginning to evolve and become real. That's it. Thank you.
Wow.